What is going on, community? Welcome back to the channel. We are here keeping up with the comics. As you can see from the thumbnail and from the title, we have 3 comics to keep up with today. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into it. The first book I want to keep up with is Transformers Shattered Glass issue number 2. And like I said before, childhood me would be disappointed in enjoying this comic because childhood me would not like the fact that I felt sympathy for one Megatron in this comic. So first we of course we acknowledge Danny Lore, the writer, and Daniel Kana, I think, is the artist. But what we have in this book is we basically have the 10-cent tour version. Well, my 10-cent tour version is that the Autobots are bad and the Decepticons are not so bad. It's hard for me to say the Decepticons are good. They still haven't shown good in the Decepticons just yet, but they aren't the evil group of the book. That's kind of the short version of it. The longer version is that there are some politics going on in this book, and the difference of politics between Megatron and Orion Pax, not Optimus Prime, Orion Pax, is the reason we have this difference and this Shattered Glass universe, which is the exact opposite of what most of us know about Transformers. So the book kind of centered around issue 1, kind of centered around Starscream, and of course, you know, he's kind of loud. He's most wanted basically by Goldbug, who it took me a while to figure out that Goldbug was Bumblebee, but he's wanted by Goldbug, and he had a big price on his head, which Blur tried to collect on and got close, but got outsmarted by Starscream. If you want to know how bad, Shattered Glass issue number 1, you can check it out. But what Starscream was looking for in his quest, using Blur some to get what he wanted, was he was looking for Megatron, who's been hiding out past like the Sea of Rust. You can tell he doesn't want to be bothered, because by the time Starscream finds Megatron in the Sea of Rust, the Sea of Rust has almost killed Starscream. So you can tell it's a place where he doesn't want to be bothered, and he doesn't think many people are going to show up. But here's Starscream knocking on his door and asking for help. Starscream wants someone to help lead a resistance to turn the tide against the Autobots in this universe. And that's where my sympathy for Megatron comes in. What we get in this book for most of the time is we get Megatron's origin story and the Autobot Decepticon war origin story for this universe. And most people, I don't know if most people know that IDW, if not Transformers in general, but IDW's Transformers origin story for Megatron has Megatron as a slave working in the mines of Cybertron. And he kind of, you know, he's strong, so he kind of gets in the fight pits and uses the fight pits and uses that might to gather recruits for his cause of overthrowing the main Cybertron government and getting their tyranny out of the way. Of course, we know sooner or later power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and then Megatron becomes the tyrant that he once overthrew. That's Megatron in the main continuity. This Megatron is kind of the same way, where the Autobots have a government that's less than free. They haven't described what this government is, You can't really tell, what kind of government it is, which is fine by me, because if you describe the particular less than free regime, I'm not a political scientist. I couldn't tell you what the description would lead me to think. All I know is that you have people who would like to rise up against this government run by the Autobots in this universe. And Orion Pax is basically an enforcer and maybe one of the senators of this government. And he and Megatron, like in most tellings of Transformers, used to be friends before this big rift came. And from there, we get our war, what I'm going to call a war. We see who wins, which is pretty surprising, and we get two tellings of it. We get Megatron's side of what happened, and we get Starscream's side of what happened, and they kind of disagree a little bit. But that's really what the book is about. It is showing us more detail of how we got here to this shattered glass universe, and why we are where we are. Also, just to drop a little hint about where Starscream is trying to go, because it's still a Starscream centric story. Someone remembers the Titans, and I'm going to leave it right there. Make of that what you will. So that was my view on Transformers Shattered Glass, issue number 2, where I have sympathy for Megatron. That is the last time I'm going to say those words. I'm going to go right now and wash my mouth out, and I'll be back with our next book. My next book is leading us from a future with all the kind of technology to a past, the Dark Ages, with no technology. This is Dark Ages, issue number 2, written by Tom Taylor with art by Iban Coelho. I think it is. Y'all help me out. So Dark Ages issue number 1 basically introduced us to this old ancient power that got snuffed out millions of years ago. That power comes back and menaces the Marvel Universe. We have heroes get together. The heroes go and try and fight this villain. Some perish, some don't. But as they collectively win and beat this villain, who we all thought was the villain of the story. Basically, by killing this villain, they set off an EMP at the core of the earth, and voila, there's no more lights, no electricity, no engines, no nothing. Nothing works. No refrigerator, no microwave. I don't know what you guys are going to do without those two. But we're left in the dark, and out of the darkness comes the true villain of the story. And I think you can look at the cover and tell who the villain is. So, Dark Ages number 2 basically picks up and they show us, a glimpse into, how people once chaos hits, once the power is gone, there's a power vacuum almost, quite literally, and sides get to fighting, and there's war, and there's death, and it's kind of every apocalypse Armageddon type story, like right afterwards ends in people taking sides and claiming territory and war and death and killing, all that good stuff. That's what happened when the Dark Ages started. And then over time, some of our telepaths, our Jean Greys, our Professor X's, kind of, use their mental power to put out a message to the world that we could do better, we can be better, and it works. Most of the people of the world, at least that we're shown here, put together a society that after the lights go out and after we have nothing, try to build something. And that's where we catch up with our characters. They're in Wakanda. They get all of the scientific brains in Wakanda, trying to find solutions, trying to, like I said, figure out how to run the world without power, all of this good stuff. And then, of course, we catch up with Mr. Tony Stark. He and Pepper are kind of in the dark, and they're being besieged by monsters and vampires, because of course there are monsters and vampires in the dark. But they are saved by, who else would save Tony? So we got Captain Tony back once again, and they are going basically to investigate what's going on, because there are hints of who this villain may be, and that something may be afoot. I mean, we know it's a Marvel book. Everything can't stay quiet, and they've been vigilant, and so they want to go and investigate. And they find Apocalypse, who is the villain. Spoiler alert. And Apocalypse kind of lays out his plan. He's as far as I know, I've never read an Apocalypse book, but from what I know of Apocalypse, he's full of hubris. He'll tell you what he's gonna do because you can't stop him, because he's inevitable and blah blah blah. So that's where this book is. Apocalypse kind of lays out his plans, tells everybody what he's gonna do, and so we have our dilemma. We also have kind of a nice little tag team at the end of this book. And if you go by everything I told you about this book, I will tell you right now, I lied about a quarter of this book. I really want you to read it. I didn't lie about most of the important stuff, but I do want you to read it and not be bored because I told you everything. But really good book. Miniseries, Elseworld story. I think it's 6 parts, but it's starting out strong, and I cannot wait for issue number 3. Last, but certainly not least, in fact, one of the most anticipated books of the last few weeks, Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 75. So this is my first Amazing Spider-Man book, at least my first current Amazing Spider-Man book. I've been reading Miles Morales Spider-Man, but I haven't been picking up Amazing Spider-Man. But after Nick Spencer and all of the things I heard about Nick Spencer's run, we won't get into all that. I decided that I wanted to try out Amazing Spider-Man, see what it had going, see what I can get out of it. What I got was probably not what most people expected. I mean, the solicitors kind of told you, but a month or two ago, you wouldn't have expected what's going on in this Amazing Spider-Man run. So, just to cut to the chase, in this Amazing Spider-Man run, Ben Reilly is back. I really want to call him Ben O'Reilly. I don't know why. I know the guy's name is Ben Reilly. Maybe the O'Reilly Auto Parts song is going through my head. I don't know, but I want to call him Ben O'Reilly. But he's Ben Reilly. And Ben Reilly is back on the scene as Spider-Man. And it's really, really, really funny that he shows up and talks to Peter and tells Peter that the Spider-Man variant, we're going to say variant for right now, that he clashed with on the rooftop earlier was Ben. And Ben is back for a particular reason. He has been hired by this Beyond Corporation who's got some interesting motives that sound good on the surface, But it's a Marvel Universe corporation, so you know I can't trust them as far as I can throw them. But Ben is working for them, and he's got upgraded suits and tech, but he comes like a man and tells Peter what's going on with him and Spider-Man and the Beyond Corporation. Peter kind of grins and bears it because he doesn't like most of what he's hearing, but I'm not sure whether or not Peter has a choice but to at least tolerate what Ben Reilly is doing back in New York as Spider-Man. And they kind of each go to their mutual corners, and then we get an attack with some I'm not familiar with the villains, but there's this villain team that's attacking this school, and both Spider-Men go to help. And at the end of the day, one Spider-Man has amazing tech with armor in his suit and everything, and the other, Peter, just has a regular suit, and that kind of leaves Peter out of commission, basically. And that's kind of where we leave off with the main story, with Peter kind of down and out, and Ben Reilly, back as Spider-Man. How long will it last? I don't know. I'm guessing quite a few issues. And who is this Beyond Corporation? In fact, if you read this book, what do you think about the Beyond Corporation? I told you I don't trust them because they're a Marvel Universe corporation. But what do you think about the Beyond Corporation? And what do you think about their motives for being here and hiring Ben? Now, we also have a couple of side stories that basically feature the Beyond Corporation, and one of them I like, even though I don't know what they're doing fighting sea monsters in the sewer. But we get Misty and Colleen Wing, the Daughters of the Dragon, and they're gonna end up working for the Beyond Corporation. And the Beyond Corporation is also cloning, but not cloning one of Spider-Man's old villains. It's a villain. Well, I guess as I don't read ASM books, I wouldn't have really seen this villain before, or interacted with this villain before. But I'm anxious to see a version of this villain. I really did like, and I really did enjoy issue 75 of Amazing Spider-Man. I want to see how things go going forward. I want to see how the whole Beyond thing works out, not only for the corporation itself, but how it works out for Ben. Because if Ben is, any part of Peter, because he's Peter's clone from who knows how many clone sagas ago, if Ben is any, part of Peter, I feel like Ben will have the same feelings that I do about this Beyond Corporation. So I don't know how long their partnership will last. But right now, that's where we are. And I'm going to pick up 76, which comes out, if you're watching Wednesday or Thursday, then you may have already picked up 76, or maybe going to pick up 76. It's almost a weekly book. I think it's like three issues a month. I'm not sure how I tackle that. I don't know if I'm going to follow that heavily, but I'll tell you what, 75 at least did enough to get me to purchase 76, and we'll take it week by week. But Amazing Spider-Man issue 75 was pretty good and worth checking out. So that was Keeping Up with the Comics. I feel like I was a little long-winded and maybe a little spoilery. If I was, or too spoilery, my apologies. But those were three good books. Three books I really enjoyed this week. If you enjoyed yourself, go ahead, hit that like button. And if you want to keep up with me, Keeping Up with the Comics, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Of course, feel free to leave comments. It's always encouraged. But as we always do at this time, love yourself, love others, take care of yourself. And I will be back in a flash.